It didn't crash in. It didn't announce itself. But you felt it. Something landed in the air today, quiet, dense, unshakable. Like your body finally exhaled into a frequency it didn't know it was waiting for. The sky just changed shape. And whether you realized it or not, your path did too. Because today, the sun entered Taurus. And that means the fire has found form. What you burned for in Aries, what you chased, what lit up your imagination, it's now being grounded. Not in stillness. In solidity. This isn't about slowing down. It's about sinking in. Anchoring the vision. Turning urgency into presence. But don't mistake the earth energy for silence. Mars is still blazing through Leo. That roar beneath your ribcage. That ache to act. That's not ego. It's divine pressure. Something inside you wants to be seen, not for approval, but for alignment. And above you, the lyrics are starting to fall. Not just meteors, but messages. Not just light, but memory. Dreams are warping. Time is stretching. The sky is whispering in fragments only your nervous system can decode. So if you felt a strange mix of hunger and calm, of readiness and resistance, it's because three forces are converging. Taurus. Leo. Lyrid. But they're not clashing. They're harmonizing through you. And the reason it feels so strange, is because you've never stood in this kind of moment before. Let's talk about what's opening right now. You didn't need to know the date to feel it. Something in the atmosphere shifted, slowly, deliberately, without spectacle. But the moment you woke up, it was there. Not loud. Not urgent. Just different. Like gravity rearranged itself in your chest. That's what it feels like when fire becomes form. Because today, the sun has left Aries and entered Taurus. And even if you didn't know it astrologically, your body already picked up the signal. The spark has settled. The chase is over. Not because the journey ended, but because now it wants roots. This is where the sacred work begins. Taurus doesn't come to ignite, it comes to sustain. It doesn't rush. It doesn't push. But it doesn't tolerate illusions, either. It holds up a mirror and asks one question: what are you building? And is it worth standing on when everything else starts to shake? You may feel the urge to clean your room, clear your schedule, or cancel the things that no longer feel like truth. That's not resistance, it's realignment. Taurus doesn't need noise to feel powerful. It anchors. And right now, that's what you're being asked to do. The energy has shifted from declaration to demonstration. In Aries, you got the download. The vision. The call. But that flame was never meant to live in theory. Taurus wants to see if you trust it enough to bring it down into your body. Into your calendar. Into your habits. It asks, can you carry what you claimed? Because it's easy to say, I'm ready, in the fire of inspiration. It's harder to show up daily and prove it when no one's watching. This season is not about performance. It's about presence. You'll be tempted to think things are slowing down. That maybe you lost the edge. That maybe you're behind. But that's not delay, it's density. Your spirit is anchoring now. You're being given the chance to stabilize your truth in a way that can last. The adrenaline is fading, but the calling isn't. It's just becoming quieter. Heavier. More real. And this kind of work, the deep, sacred kind, requires both hands. It requires the body. The bones. The part of you that's willing to stay, to tend, to keep showing up even when the rush is gone. That's the test Taurus brings, not whether you can start strong, but whether you can build slowly. Beautifully. From alignment instead of adrenaline. This is where embodiment meets endurance. As Proverbs 24 verse 3 reminds us, by wisdom a house is built, and through understanding it is established. This isn't just about building any life. It's about building one that reflects your soul's architecture. One that doesn't collapse every time emotions shift or seasons change. You may find yourself decluttering, not just physically, but emotionally. Cutting cords. Saying no without guilt. Letting go of the versions of yourself that were built for temporary applause. That's not retreat. That's sacred refinement. Taurus doesn't ask you to stop moving. It asks you to move with weight. With honesty. With care. You'll feel this in your body first. In your throat. In your stomach. In the pace of your breath. You'll notice what no longer tastes right. What conversations don't land. What routines once gave you structure but now feel like prisons. That's your cue. The roots are ready to go deeper, but not everything can come with you. This is when the earth speaks. Not in thunder, but in timing. You'll feel the pull to rest, but it won't be laziness. It will be listening. You'll feel the nudge to pause, not to fall behind, but to feel what you've been rushing past. This is rest as revelation. Building as worship. So if the next few days feel quiet, unglamorous, even anticlimactic, don't resist it. That quiet is where the blueprint clarifies. The stillness is where you find what truly supports you, and what you've only been tolerating. Pay attention to what brings peace without explanation. That's Taurus. That's your new compass. This is the part of the journey where people mistake steadiness for stagnation. Don't fall for that lie. There is sacred velocity in what's slow and sure. What's built in devotion always outlasts what was built in urgency. And yet, just as your feet begin to sink into the soil, something stirs in your chest again. Because while the sun is grounding your path in Taurus, Mars is still blazing through Leo. And something inside you is waking up, not with panic, but with power. You're ready to burn again. But this time, it's from center. You felt it, haven't you? That sudden rise in your chest. The shift from quiet alignment to something louder. Like something inside you finally stood up. That's not adrenaline. That's Mars. And it's not whispering anymore. Mars has entered Leo, and the fire isn't playing small. It's not here to warm your hands. It's here to remind you who you are, and what you've been avoiding. There's a difference between being seen and being recognized. One seeks validation. The other demands alignment. And Mars in Leo doesn't care who's watching. It only cares whether you're standing in your truth. You might find yourself speaking more boldly. Saying the thing you used to rehearse in silence. Choosing action without pulling the room. You're not being reckless. You're being real. Because when Mars burns through Leo, hesitation becomes a weight you can no longer carry. This fire isn't chaotic, it's clarifying. It doesn't destroy for fun. It burns off what doesn't belong. The masks. The scripts. The carefully edited versions of yourself. All of it starts to feel itchy. Too small. Like a costume you've outgrown. If you've been hiding behind roles, trying to appear nice, professional, peaceful, while burying what you really want to say, this transit won't let it sit quietly. Mars in Leo is the moment your soul calls your ego's bluff. The moment you realize, you weren't being humble. You were being hidden. And this fire doesn't need a stage. It just needs truth. Even if you're still in the middle of the mess. Even if your voice shakes when you speak it. Even if no one claps. Because this part of the journey isn't about applause. It's about ignition. And once the fire lights, it doesn't fade quietly. It pushes. It pulses. Because Mars doesn't just expose what you've outgrown, it demands that you stop shrinking to fit it. This energy won't tolerate performative peace. It wants the real you. The unscripted, unfiltered, uncensored essence of who you are when no one's looking. You may feel confrontational, not toward others, but toward your own stagnation. The confrontation is internal. Sacred. A refusal to keep pretending that you don't know what you know. You're not here to fight people. You're here to fight for your truth. And that might mean walking away from what's comfortable but no longer real. Leo rules the heart. Mars rules movement. That means the fire now lives in your chest. It doesn't ask for strategy, it asks for courage. You're not chasing attention. You're answering something ancient. The part of you that remembers what clean power feels like, when it's not manipulated, controlled, or diluted for approval. That's why you might feel pulled back to dreams you let die. Passions you buried because they didn't fit the script. You might hear an idea and, for the first time, not silence it. Mars in Leo doesn't need permission. It just needs integrity. It wants to know, are you ready to stop waiting for ideal conditions and finally move like you believe you were chosen? There's a holy restlessness in the air. You're not being reckless. You're being summoned. To speak what was unspoken. To show up where you used to shrink. To make moves before your mind catches up. Because clarity doesn't always come before the action. Sometimes the action brings the clarity. And yes, this fire will touch your relationships. It will challenge the dynamics where you've been pretending. It will stir the conversations you've avoided. It will spotlight the performance you've mastered, and then ask you to step off the stage. Not to shame you. To free you. As Jeremiah 20 verse 9 says, His word is in my heart like a fire shut up in my bones. I am weary of holding it in, indeed, I cannot. That's the moment we're in. What's in you can't be held back anymore. Not by manners. Not by doubt. Not by timelines that never belong to you. So if your heart feels loud, if your body feels like it's vibrating with unspoken motion, that's not instability. That's arrival. Mars in Leo doesn't want you to be louder. It wants you to be real. To act without flinching. To burn off the fiction you kept wearing to feel safe. And yes, it's risky. Yes, it's raw. But what's the alternative? To keep bowing to a version of yourself you've already outgrown? To keep waiting for permission from people who were never meant to understand you? That fire in your chest is not a signal to hold back. It's a reminder that what's true will never settle for the illusion of peace. And while the sun in Taurus grounds your path, Mars in Leo dares you to step onto it without apology. Root and rise. Burn and build. And just as you begin to integrate both earth and fire, the sky above begins whispering something else, something older. Because memory is beginning to move too. It doesn't need to be April 21st for the sky to start singing. The lyrids are already arriving, subtle, ancient, precise. They don't wait for a peak. They ripple before they land. And if you've been dreaming strangely, feeling stretched across time, or noticing odd flashes of memory that don't quite belong to this moment, you're not broken. You're remembering. Because the lyrids aren't just light. They're codes. And the sky isn't just falling, it's opening. Something is waking in the fabric of time itself. You might wake up breathless, with emotions that don't match your reality. Or walk through your day with déjà vu chasing you like a shadow. Or hear a line in a song that feels like it was written for a version of you that no longer lives here, but still exists somewhere. That's not nostalgia. That's not confusion. That's resonance. These meteors are messengers, not just from the stars, but from the timelines you thought you left behind. The lyrics don't introduce the future. They activate memory. They hand you fragments of versions you once were, versions you're still carrying in muscle, in dream, in silence. They remind you what you buried when it wasn't safe to carry truth. And now that safety is returning, the memories are too. These aren't random flashbacks. They're spiritual retrievals. You might find yourself thinking about someone you haven't spoken to in years. Not with longing, but with clarity. Or recalling something you swore you'd forgotten, suddenly rising like a wave. That's not coincidence. That's correction. Something in the stars is restoring your timeline. Because you didn't lose the thread, you just outpaced it. And now it's catching up. This is where healing shows up in disguise. That wave of grief that appears with no trigger. It might not be yours alone. It might be an echo from another version of you. One who never got to cry it out. One who got left behind when you were too busy surviving. One who is finally safe enough now to come home. The lyrics don't teach through logic. They teach through sensation. And they don't show you the future so you can predict it, they show you the past so you can finally stop pretending it didn't shape you. You're not imagining the pressure behind your eyes. The old wound in your chest flaring up. The way your body responds to a memory your mind hasn't caught up with yet. This is what sacred remembering feels like. Job 38 verse 7 asks, where were you when the morning stars sang together? And right now, you're hearing their echoes. Not through sound, but through alignment. Through the sudden knowing that can't be explained. Through the pulse in your spine when something resonates too deeply to be a coincidence. And memory, in this moment, becomes medicine. Not by erasing the past, but by allowing it to speak. To rise. To be seen not as your identity, but as your initiation. You're not being haunted, you're being handed back the parts of yourself you left behind. And this time, you're not required to fix them. Just to hold them. The lyrics stretch your perception of time. You might feel like you're waking up inside someone else's dream, or like a scene from 3 years ago is replaying in high definition across your afternoon. Time folds. Synchronicity thickens. The veil doesn't just thin, it flexes. And your nervous system reacts. You may feel tired for no reason. Wired at 3 a.m. Crying in the middle of a laugh. Silent when you normally overshare. This isn't resistance. It's recalibration. Your body isn't trying to delay your growth, it's making space for what memory just reactivated. Because what's returning isn't small. It's the part of you that remembers exactly what it came here to do. The person you were before the heartbreak. Before the compromise. Before the world taught you to perform safety instead of living truth. That self, the one you silenced to survive, is now rising through fragments, symbols, sensations. And if you feel unstable, that's exactly how rebirth begins. There's no map for this kind of moment. The lyrics don't follow formulas. They follow alignment. So if you're suddenly drawn to music you haven't played in years, or phrases you haven't spoken since childhood, or a person whose name just keeps showing up, that's a breadcrumb. Follow it. Slowly. Without demanding a destination. Because this meteor shower isn't about spectacle. It's about sequence. And right now, something ancient is aligning through you. You may not be able to explain what you're feeling. That's okay. Some wisdom was never meant to be translated. It was meant to be lived. Breathed. Integrated in silence. This is not the time to overanalyze. It's the time to listen. Not with your mind, but with your body. Your bones remember what the noise made you forget. And as the stars sing overhead, their light doesn't just illuminate the sky. It illuminates what you buried to survive. Let it rise. Let it reintroduce you to the version of yourself that never stopped waiting. Let it remind you that healing isn't always gentle, but it is always precise. Because while Taurus asks you to root, and Mars demands you rise, the lyrics activate something deeper, the remembrance of why you ever started in the first place. And as memory stirs, the body begins to react in quiet resistance. It starts subtly. A pressure you can't explain. You might feel it as a tightness behind the ribs or a flutter in your gut, like your body is bracing for something you can't name. The discomfort doesn't come with fear, but it refuses to be ignored. Maybe your sleep is off again. Maybe your body feels tired, but your thoughts won't slow down. Maybe you're craving movement without knowing where to go, or stillness without knowing how to rest. That strange duality. That's not dysfunction. That's prophecy. This is what it feels like when fire meets earth, when Taurus anchors and Mars erupts. The sun grounds you in embodiment. Mars inflames what hasn't been claimed. The result isn't destruction. It's friction. And friction, in spiritual terms, is not chaos, it's refinement. You are not being torn apart. You are being tuned. This isn't panic. This is preparation. If your chest feels heavy, it's because you're holding energy that hasn't found expression yet. If your hands buzz or your limbs twitch in stillness, it's because your nervous system is adjusting to a frequency you weren't designed to ignore. The lyrids have thinned the veil. Taurus has pulled your awareness into the bones. Mars has ignited the inner forge. You're not imagining the pressure. You're being rewritten by it. The impulse may rise to do something, to fix the sensation, to outrun the discomfort, to grasp at a solution. But this isn't a moment for reaction. It's a moment for recognition. The pressure isn't a prompt to act, it's an invitation to notice where action used to be compensation. The parts of you that always filled the silence are now being asked to listen. The parts that chased certainty are now being asked to hold space. This pressure is a prophecy in progress. And your body, in its wisdom, already knows the pace. Let it lead. Some days, you may feel like you can't find your rhythm. And that's okay. Prophetic recalibration doesn't honor the old schedules. You might need to sleep when the sun is up. You might feel more awake under starlight. You might start remembering what used to keep you alive before productivity replaced intuition. And when the internal pull doesn't match the outer demands, trust the pull. It knows something your planner doesn't. What's happening inside you is not linear. It's alchemical. You're not meant to choose between grounding and ignition. You are meant to hold both. That's why the pressure feels multidirectional, because the assignment now is to become the bridge. Between stability and movement. Between silence and fire. Between who you've been and who is trying to break through. And bridges aren't passive. They bear weight. They carry tension. They stretch between spaces that rarely speak the same language. That is the work your body is doing now. It is holding the paradox of ascension and integration. It is holding the contradiction of feeling too much and not enough at the same time. And if it feels like too much, it's only because you've never been taught that prophecy doesn't always arrive in peace. Sometimes it arrives in pulse. So don't rush to calm what is rising. Let it move. Let it reshape. Let it teach you where your energy still leaks. Let it teach you what you can't carry into the next frequency. Let it burn, but don't let it convince you that something is wrong. This is what it feels like when the vessel expands. The prophetic doesn't always feel graceful. Sometimes it shakes the spine. Sometimes it flushes the face. Sometimes it presses down so hard you have to lie still just to breathe. But under that pressure is something sacred, something being sculpted. And it's not an ending. It's alignment. You're not being asked to collapse or to conquer. You're being asked to become. To become the point of contact where fire learns discipline and earth learns motion. Where prophecy stops hovering above your life and begins speaking through your cells. What you're feeling now isn't something to solve, it's something to host. Because when pressure rises from within, it's not always asking for direction. Sometimes, it's simply revealing what your foundation was never built to hold. And instead of choosing between rest or action, between silence or movement, you're being shown how to hold both. Not as contradiction, but as command. This isn't about bracing for the next wave or waiting for it to pass. It's about learning how to stay present while it reshapes you. Because from this point forward, the conversation isn't about what's happening around you. It's about what you're now capable of carrying. And that changes everything. The energies today are not knocking. They've already entered. And what they're shifting, quietly, precisely, isn't just the sky. It's you. Taurus grounds your being in physical truth, calling you to anchor what was once just a spark. Mars in Leo ignites the unapologetic flame, pressing your courage forward in ways you hadn't rehearsed. And the Lyrids, still falling above, are lacing each layer of atmosphere with encoded memory. You're not standing outside these forces. You are the intersection they've chosen to collide through. This isn't a cosmic display meant for observation. It's an initiation meant for embodiment. If you felt tension building in ways you can't explain, restless energy in your limbs, the urge to move forward without knowing where you're going, clarity rising before the words can form, it's not instability. It's alignment activating. And you're not meant to figure it out. You're meant to feel it. Fully. From your root to your throat. Because this moment is not about asking, what's coming? That question belongs to a version of you that still thinks insight precedes action. Today replaces that question with a new one, what's finally arriving in me that's ready to live? You are the threshold now. Not the seeker. Not the student. The channel. You've spent months in preparation, feeling, sensing, receiving, waiting. But now the patterns are complete. The timelines are converging. The old self doesn't need your loyalty. It needs your release. The pull you feel is real. And what it's asking is simple, will you move without permission? This kind of alignment doesn't reward perfection. It responds to willingness. To momentum. To the kind of holy defiance that says, I don't need all the signs to say yes, I just need one. And you've already received more than that. The dreams. The restlessness. The breakdowns that arrived like instructions in disguise. That wasn't confusion. That was coding. James 2 verse 17 says, faith without works is dead. And today, you're not being asked to declare your belief. You're being asked to walk in it. Because the longer you wait to feel certain, the more distant this alignment becomes. And the truth is, it never asked for certainty. It only asked for presence. The kind of presence that breathes into the unknown and moves anyway. You've reached the point where asking for more signs is a delay tactic. The signs have already delivered. And now, they've gone quiet. Not because the message is over, but because the message is now in you. You are not seeking direction anymore. You are becoming direction for everything that touches your energy from this point forward. So pause for a moment. Not to analyze, but to recognize what has just taken shape in you. Because this was never about watching a prophecy unfold. It was about discovering that you are the location it chose to land in. April 19th is not an announcement. It's a placement. It didn't bring a new insight, it confirmed the one you were born carrying. And if something inside you clicked today, something too deep to explain but too real to dismiss, then it's time to answer. Comment, I'm stepping into form. Say it not as a hope, but as a realization. And if you're ready to keep walking with the sky as it speaks, if you know that the shift didn't end here but just entered your bloodstream, subscribe. This journey doesn't move in circles. It moves in spirals. And this spiral has just turned. You don't have to understand the whole message. You only have to embody the part that found you.